Let me ask you a question. Have you ever launched a PPC campaign that didn't work? Like many of us, I'm sure you have. And it wasn't because you were doing anything wrong. It was because you weren't potentially following the PPC temperature scale. So today, we're going to go over something called the ice cube and volcano scale when it comes to actually using any traffic type and any PPC channel to get the conversions you want. Now, ice cube traffic, which the name implies is very cold, is usually the traffic that ends up on your site, your landing page, or your mobile install page, not knowing how they got there, and they don't know who you are. Now, as you can see logically, this type of traffic has a very, very low chance of converting on your core call to action, which is your main objective. Now, on the other side of the equation, on the other right side of the scale, you have the volcano traffic. This volcano traffic is usually branded search traffic that knows who you are and wants to interact with you and actually wants to convert too. When you take a look at the 4 different platforms within PPC, having display, video, social, and search, you'll notice that on the ice cube and volcano scale, they usually fall within the layout that you see right here. Now, most times, regular direct display traffic is the coldest, while search traffic on the brand side is the absolute hottest type of traffic. But within each type of PPC traffic section, you have what we call subsections. And these temperatures also range in different types of intent when it comes to both leads and sales. Now, if you look at the search side, you basically have 4 different pillars within there as well. You have brand, competitor, generic, and what we call informational. And if you were actually to track both the lead quality, the sales quality, and also the performance of each stage, you'll notice that all of them perform differently. Now that you know PPC temperatures, the next step is understanding what we call PPC threat levels. Every time a visitor clicks on your ad, they're inherently scared to see what their first impression might be. Are you asking them to do too much when it comes to the call to action, or could you get them to do more? You won't really understand until you actually figure out how to match the PPC temperature of their intent with the temperature of your offer. And that's why we looked at this scale called, again, the threat scale. You have the ice cube traffic with the volcano up at the right side top. And this is where you, again, want to make sure that when you have display traffic going, that is usually a cold visitor, do you also have a cold offer? And we'll explain that more here in a little bit too. Now imagine that you're a bike shop using PPC to drive sales. Of course, this is a little bit of an extreme example, but let's say that most of your visitors actually just want to buy a bike. But some cases, you actually want to try to see if you can sell a real life panther. Now, as you can see, logically, this doesn't really make sense because people aren't searching for a panther, yet alone do they not think it's a method of transportation. So as you then launch that PPC campaign and it fails because you don't get any panther sales, you immediately think that it doesn't work out, which isn't actually always the case. And I'm going to show you how you can actually start selling some panthers. The important thing to remember here is that you can always use a cold call to action for hot traffic, but you can't use a hot call to action for cold traffic. One thing that is really important as you go through this is that you can do a lot of funnel creation, create many steps that you want the visitors to take, but your goal should always be to try to find the balance between the speed of what makes you money and what the visitor wants as well. So let's look at a real world example of how we did this. Now, there's a way to actually warm up your traffic pretty quickly where you don't rely on any email nurturing or remarketing for that matter either. I want to give you a real life example of a women's clothing subscription company and where we were actually using generic search traffic, which is warm traffic, and getting what we wanted to do, which was getting the visitor to create an account and eventually buy and pay for the account. Now, we wanted to scale that to display advertising and we couldn't get it to work. We even tried to do a 50% discount and it still wouldn't work. So then we were thinking to ourselves, how do we match the intent of the visitor, their temperature, because this is cold display traffic, with the offer, the call to action that we want them to convert on? So instead of actually trying to get them to create an account, we tried to actually have them subscribe to our newsletter. So we created a landing page that was about just the benefits and the features of signing up for the newsletter, not the actual core call to action at all. And what happened was we got people to sign up for that. We also gave them the 50% discount for the first month. And here's the most magical thing. On the thank you page, we actually upsold them on the original call to action, which was you already signed up for the newsletter, you might as well continue and actually create your account, go through the onboarding, and eventually sign up and pay at the end. See, the truth is that all PPC channels can work in a direct response manner. It's just up to you to make sure that you match the PPC visitor's temperature with your call to action.